wanted to start with Chelsea, actually. I'm going to George first on this because reports came out yesterday from David Ornstein that they will not have to sell players in June to comply with financial fair play. The big financial £200+ million black hole has been confirmed as true, but they have sold hotels, and it now appears they have sold their training ground to Clearlake. So essentially, they're stripping assets out the club to ensure they don't foul financial fair play and end up with fines and points deductions. And there's also talk about Pochs now staying, but his comments in the media seem to sort of contradict that. So it feels like things are moving maybe in the right direction financially, but still a little bit of turmoil surrounding Chelsea. Like, how do you view it as a rival?
Yeah, no, I think Chelsea are slowly coming together. You probably got to give it to them and give it to Poch. So the last couple of weeks, it's gone their way. I feel like as the season's gone on, you've sort of seen Chelsea. For me, they've been up and down all year, probably up until the last couple of weeks. You look at their performances and you can say they're starting to grow on those performances. They're starting to sort of find I'd say best 11, but they're working with the 11 they've got. But their best team of the players that they've got right now. And their system's starting to show that it's worked. They can score goals and can create chances, and they're looking a lot better. With regards to Poch, though, I do think that Poch has definitely earned himself another year. I think all these people are saying Poch out and all this rubbish. Yeah, look, if you look at it from the start of the season, what your expectations were, I think a lot of Chelsea fans just said they want to get back in Europe. He's looking more than likely that he's going to be back in Europe, and it could be a Europa League spot. So that would be, for me, an overachievement, because we're talking 3-4 months ago. Most people expected Chelsea to finish 10th or 11th, if not below her. So for me, Poch has probably got to stay. He's earned his job. But with regards to his comments in the media, I think for me, it's him trying to put pressure on the board. I think he knows what's coming in the summer transfer window, and he knows how he's been in the past. In most of his other clubs and wherever else he has been, he's sort of not had that control in the transfer window, and it's sort of left up to the football directors, the board, and he's just a yes man. We all know Poch has been a yes man for many, many years. I think he's finally getting tired of that. He's starting to realize this squad isn't the squad that he needs to, it's not built in his eyes, and it's not the squad that he feels he can perform with. So he's starting to put some pressure on the board. He wants to show Clearlake and Todd Bowley that, look, you guys need to bring me in my players. I want it my way, or he could potentially leave. I don't think he's ever going to leave. I think it's a position. This is probably the best job he's going to get. This is going to be his last best job that he's going to get, because if he leaves now, there's no other big team's going to want to go near Poch, because he's not successful anywhere else. Really.
I mean, what's really interesting about it, Henry, obviously, you know Poch very well, but Chelsea have briefed David Ornstein, and I know some people think David Ornstein is a mouthpiece and he's going to make everything sound more positive than it is, and I understand that claim, but his statement is that they are going to review his future at the end of the season. I don't understand what changes in the next couple of games. I don't see how he can 2 or 3 good wins or a couple of bad defeats. Surely they can't be waiting to the end of the season. Surely Chelsea's owners already know whether or not they want to keep him.
Yeah. Look, well, they should do in theory. They've already gone through a couple of managers. I think the only thing that could potentially play a part is if he gets in the Europa League, because won't that affect his ability to spend, Chelsea's ability to go and spend money? I think if they fall outside of Europe, they can go and spend more in the transfer window. But Chelsea just needs to get a manager in that they trust. If Poch is not going to be the guy, even if he finishes in the Europa League, I think George is right. That is a bit of an overachievement considering where they were in, I think, January. They were 12th. So to rescue that and potentially get 6th, I think that's a relatively good turnaround for Chelsea. But if he's not the guy, they need to just understand who they want and get them in soon. But the problem we've got is there's many clubs looking for managers, and Chelsea at the moment aren't probably in the best position to attract the top managers. Yes, they're a big football club. They're an elite football club. But you've got Man United who are also looking for managers. There's potentially PSG if Emery gets sacked. Liverpool, Arne Slot, is he going to work out? Potentially Spurs if Ange doesn't work out. We're going to be looking for a manager. There's a lot of teams on the lookout. I think Poch is the right guy. I said this on the squad. I think he just needs to get his own players in and actually have full backing from Todd Bowley, not flipping Monopoly where they're going to chuck £1 billion at all these random players that actually fit the system. Clearly, I still think they need a striker, even though Jackson's, performed in recent weeks. I still think they need an out-and-out striker, but Yeah, only time will tell. I think they've just got to understand if Poch is going to be their guy going into next season sooner rather than later.
Well, Poch ain't the only one making strange comments. You had Todd Bowley the other day in the interview saying that, yeah, everything's going to plan, like everything that they want is happening, that you can see it coming together. So this is what confuses me about Chelsea. You get reports saying they're looking at sacking him. You got Poch saying they're gonna, I don't know if I want to stay, but I want to stay. Then you got Todd Bowley saying, "Yeah, the plan's coming together, but you want to say like it's just very confusing."
Is it not just mind games, KJ? Do you think? Do you not think
But
he's
who-
saying that because he doesn't
Who's
think?
playing mind games with who? Like those two to each other, to the world?
No,
Like,
it's in Poch saying to the board, like, unless you want me here, like, why would I stay?
yeah, it could be potentially, but like it's just all a bit confusing right now.
Do it
Chelsea.
privately, wouldn't you? You do it privately. If it's the public negotiations never end well, do they? Like between people that are meant to be on the same side.
Yeah,
No, it never does.
And the same page, and it's just a massive confusion at Chelsea. And I personally think that Poch should stay, just for another year, because he's only got a 2-year contract anyway. See how the contract and see where they are at the end of the season. Like he's started to play the football that they needed to do. He's getting some players back, and he's going to get them into Europe. And next season, if you get him experienced players, you might see something different from Chelsea. Because for most of the season, no one was really talking about their defensive record. Yes, they was poor at defending, but it was more due to the fact that their scoring, they was missing so many open chances. And that was the biggest issue at Chelsea. And those things are coming together now because Cole Palmer in form, Jackson's trying to find his shooting boots. But if you give him more experienced players, more experienced striker, we probably don't even hear this chat about Poch getting sacked by Chelsea. But the biggest thing for Chelsea fans I need to look at, and I've had this discussion with some of the guys in the group chats, like the Dons, the Ches and Jem and Andrew and all of those guys, they need to be side-eyeing their ownership just a little bit. Not saying turn on them, not saying you need to be Bowley out and Clearlake out and all these things, but really have an eye on what they're doing, because yes, they're finding loopholes and everything's like, Todd Bowley out again, find another loophole. But for me, that's a worry, because if you're finding loopholes, that means you're under stress. That means to me that you're under pressure, because you need to find some quick fix, and a loophole is the best way to get out of it. What's happening financially with that club? It needs to find a solution, a long-term solution that isn't selling off its assets. Because I've just seen another report saying they're thinking about selling and part of their women's team. And this is where I'm like, whoa, slow down. This is going a bit too far. You're not going to have anything left at Chelsea Football Club if they keep going like this. And I know Chelsea fans are saying it's a short term. Cool, it's a short-term fix. And that's fair enough. But what signs have they been showing that they're going to get this right long term? Because you don't want to end up like Barcelona, where you're selling your whole flipping soul just to keep the club running. You don't want to end up like Man United, where the ownership issues are the reasons why you don't win trophies for 10 to 15 years. Honestly, like what they're doing shouldn't be celebrated as, well done, you found loopholes. I think it should be more of an analyzed thing. It's like, okay, why are we using loopholes to get out of this situation?
Yeah, I mean, even loopholes. I mean, it's an interesting point. Dio, when you look at Chelsea, I mean, some Chelsea fans are celebrating the sale of the hotels, the sale of the training ground to ensure they avoid FFP. Do you think it's something they should be happy about?
To be honest with you, I don't know. I honestly don't know. But I just think that if you're selling, it's just if you listen to the things that Todd Bowley says, I think it was last week. It was in the newspaper. He made a report about Cole Palmer and how he said, he's important to us and would like him to be famous in America. When Americans say that, he cares about the money. He doesn't care about the football on the pitch. This guy does not care about Chelsea. All these loopholes that he's taken, he's going to run this club into the ground. I mean, let's be realistic. The teams that he owns here as well, there's always something. There's always just Google him and Google his teams. There's always something. Like there's always something with the dude. So I don't know if it's a good thing for you to, like, how do you sell your training ground to the owners of the club? Like, what are you doing? It's going to come back to bite you.
It's clever accounting.
It's clever accounting, but it's going to come back and bite you eventually, because the question they're going to ask you is this: so as the owner, you can Clearlake can put in this amount of money into the club, right? Clearlake owns the training ground. So right now, Clearlake is making If Clearlake owns the training ground, Clearlake is renting the training ground to Chelsea, right? They're renting it to you to use because you can't use it for free. Or they own you. Are they giving it back to you again? Are you writing it off the books?
Well,
it's just back and forth.
What's now happened to Chelsea? Chelsea have become a less valuable football club because they no longer own particular assets. Henry's right. It's clever accounting. For me, I'm not even looking at this as loopholes because it's just how do we need to raise money? And then they've sold some assets, which is fair. I've seen Chelsea.
No, sorry about that.
I've seen some Chelsea fans go crazy about it, and I think that's a little bit too far, too soon. I've seen some Chelsea fans celebrate it like it's a trophy, which is equally as crazy to me. There's a comment here that says, I thought you were all saying a few weeks ago that Chelsea were financially done. No, they were sailing very close to the wind financially, which has now been proven. The sale of well over £200 million of assets will tell you there was a financial issue. People typically only sell their assets, either personally or as a business, when they need to raise funds because things aren't going the way in which they want to. Ali then says, Terry, how do they wriggle out of the FFP thing? Well, they didn't wriggle out of it. They've raised their income by making sales. I don't know how many more other assets they have to do this with, but what it boils down to is they have to start getting it right on the football pitch. I think it's got to be this season. They may have at least 2 years. And what I mean by that is they're going to have to spend big again this year. They've got to go out and spend another 150 to 200 million. They are still probably going to sell some of the 100% profit players because of FFP, some of their academy players. But getting it right on the football pitch matters the most here. If the next round of spending doesn't yield Champions League football and winning the major trophies, the financial situation will rear its head again. There's no way they can continue to increase sponsorship opportunities if they're not a competitive club. This is just the basic understanding of how sports teams work. The bigger and better a team performs on the football pitch, the more they win, the more money they bring in. City have grown their revenue. Let's just put aside a minute that some people think they've done it fraudulently. It probably isn't now. They're probably now earning this kind of money because of how good a team they are. If City weren't winning everything, do you really think they'd be getting all these sponsorship deals? The answer is no. So where I think KJ's spot on is their fans have to keep an eye on this. This idea, you can't keep getting out of the situation because eventually you're going to run out of assets to sell. This all comes back to the football, though. Next season, they have to finish in Champions League positions, in my humble opinion, for themselves to continue moving forward. Otherwise, they're going to find themselves in a hole where they're going to have a lot less players to sell that give them that 100% profit for FFP.
The only way they can do it is
they'll run out of assets to sell because I'm sure the next thing they might do is sell the stadium. They might sell the stadium to themselves and do that. That could be the next option. But then Chelsea Football Club are being stripped of all its assets, which I know football fans go for the football. But if you're being stripped of all your assets, that still leaves you vulnerable, in my opinion. I don't know how you see this, Will, but it's. I think Chelsea fans shouldn't be panicking. But this idea that, oh my God, my owners are brilliant, look what they just did. I think that's too far. I think that's too far-fetched.